And we are live. Yes, it's another crazy day in the books for Bitcoin. So let's dive straight into it as always. So, President of El Salvador had a interesting little meeting today, posted about it. Let's just take a look. So it's all quite cryptic. There's not so much information he shared about this. Matter of fact, he just put the eye emoji. So obviously he is creating a bit of excitement around this, creating a bit of mystery, right? It's a very cryptic meeting that took place. But obviously we can see he's meeting somebody from the Arab Emirates, Qatar, Saudi, that side of the world, and it makes you think, right? You got to put it into perspective. El Salvador, tiny little country over in Central America, and he's meeting someone from halfway across the world where they are resource heavy, right? Superpower in their own right. We know they've got tons of capital, tons of resources. And it makes you think, why is this meeting taking place, right? And to put this into context, in a real world situation, a real world application, it's like that super hot chick wanting to speak to the nerd. Now, we know that doesn't normally happen unless that nerd has something to offer. And often it's the case of money or resource. Then yes, that meeting can take place and often does. So this is a situation where we know El Salvador a couple of years ago made Bitcoin their legal tender. So that basically means that businesses are required by law to accept cryptocurrency payments, right? So they can use it in their economy. And they're the only one who's done that. Now, El Salvador, they don't own massive amounts of Bitcoin, right? But they are sitting on a fair few thousand, and that has led them to a profit of $50 million. Okay, so El Salvador have made $50 million in unrealized gains on the Bitcoin that they hold, because they've been buying like a Bitcoin every day. There has been speculation, and I did mention this a couple of days ago, that Qatar might be the next economy to come out and say publicly that they are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, right? They might be the next government to stockpile stacks of Bitcoin. And we know that's coming, okay? El Salvador aren't going to be the only ones. They are the trailblazers, okay? They have set the precedent. They have made the first move, all right? The first chess piece. They've moved the first pawn, but there are going to be others that follow suit. And it only makes sense that one of the most resource rich, okay, one of the most capital endowed countries, economies in this world is going to follow suit. And it's very likely that that is going to be Qatar or Saudi. We know that they are flooded with cash. So this meeting could be about something like that, right? It makes sense. It makes sense that on their agenda in their meeting, they're going to be talking about the Bitcoin that El Salvador has gone and stockpiled, and maybe how Saudi can get a little piece of that. Now, why is that important for you? Well, you have the opportunity to move before Saudi does, before Qatar does. Because remember, when Saudi or Qatar, someone from the Emirates, goes ahead and buys Bitcoin, they're not just going to buy 100 Bitcoin, okay? They're not just going to buy 1,000 Bitcoin. They are going to stockpile on this thing because they're cash rich and they can do so. So they're going to add heaps of Bitcoin, tons of Bitcoin. They could literally single-handedly take 5% of the supply of Bitcoin out of circulation, no problem. And remember, there's 21 million in supply. Well, there's 21 million max in supply. Right now, there's about 19 something million. But single-handedly, they could just take off 5% of the supply of Bitcoin on their own. Now, again, that just adds to this supply side crisis going on with Bitcoin right now. So this is a very, very exciting meeting. People have the opportunity to move before someone like Qatar, someone like Saudi does so. So this is a big move. This is a big meeting. Bitcoin price. Now, today we saw a fresh all-time high in the price of Bitcoin. Actually, for the first time ever, we saw Bitcoin cross above $70,000. That is huge. Actually got to about 70,100. And again, we saw a pullback. Nevertheless, I did say at the start of the week, my expectation was we would get a dip midweek, but we would finish the week at a fresh all-time high. So we saw that play out quite well. 70,000. That's not the last time we're going to see 70,000. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at around 69,000, 69.4, and it's looking strong. Yesterday, I told you, price is looking very, very good for continued movement upwards. Why? Because we saw that liquidity event, which is often what we see before a big push, takes out the letter's hands, takes out those who aren't serious, takes out those who have ill-placed stop losses, wipes them out of the game, and then rewards those who stuck in, those who weren't afraid of the volatility, those who saw the longer term vision, and that is all of you guys watching. So, seeing a series of higher highs, higher lows, that is very good in terms of structure. So structurally, Bitcoin still looks very, very good and still looks good for some further upside. Okay, again, this move that we saw where price moved up to 70,001 and then dropped down to 66, that was just to wipe out the weak hands. And then straight off that, we're showing some good movement up. So expectation is we continue to push higher, we continue to enjoy that upside momentum, and that has been the story for quite some time now. That story doesn't change. So that is the expectation. Now, if you're wondering, why did Bitcoin get to 70,000 and drop? Why didn't it go up to 71 and make its way up to 72? Isn't that what we should be seeing? Well, here's the thing. Remember, the halving event, the Bitcoin halving event is taking place next month in about 30 days now, something like that, just over 30 days. That is a big event for Bitcoin, and it only comes around every 4 years. It's like the Bitcoin Olympics. That is taking place. But the market is very tapped in to what happens around that event. The market is tapped into the fact that we either get volatility at the front end or the back end of that halving event. So before the halving event or after the halving event, we're always going to get some form of volatility, and we are going to get liquidation events, meaning price is going to drop, and it can be in the magnitude of 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%. Yes, that happens. But after that halving event, those who stayed in have enjoyed some phenomenal moves, some phenomenal increases in price. And by phenomenal, I'm talking on average 18 days after you've seen a double up in price. That's not to say that's going to happen this time, but that is to say there is going to be big movements higher once we get past that volatility stage that happens at the front end or the back end of the halving event taking place next month. So the market knows this, and the market knows that that is coming. Okay, liquidation event is coming, some sort of downside move is coming. So that's why it's not been so easy to push through into the 72, 75 plus range, because the market has that in the back of its mind, and because of that, it sets a barrier, it sets a threshold. It's making it difficult for price to move. So that's why price didn't just shoot up through 70,000 and just go on its way. Okay. Now, in terms of what to expect, it depends on how we arrive at the halving event. Let's say we arrived at the halving event at 70,000, 75,000, which is very probable. Okay, so a $5,000 increase in Bitcoin between now and early April, which would be about a 10% move. We are going to get a liquidity event. That's guaranteed. At the front end, so right before the halving event or right after, it's going to happen. But the key thing is, where's price going to go when we get that liquidity event? Where's price going to go when we get that temporary sell-off? It's very likely to go to 63,500. And that can act as an optimal entry point for those who are thinking, you know what, I want to add to some Bitcoin. I don't know when I want to add. Got a little bit of cash here. It's looking a little bit high at 69,000, but I really do want to get into Bitcoin. Well, when should I get in? What's an optimal entry? 63,500. Or for those who are like, I want to trade Bitcoin, make some money on some trades. Where what's a good price to get in? Once we get to this halving event, 63,500. Reason is, if you look at the yellow top line, we have a lot of buy orders, and they're accumulating, right? They're accumulating in some big numbers here. And especially because today, when we had that sell-off event, we got close to that yellow marker at 65,000. They're accumulating. The buy orders are accumulating. So what the market is going to do is going to take out the temporary traders, right? The temporary holders, where we've seen that accumulation, and that is 65,000. So break through that 65,000, move down to 63,500. Remember, this is at the front end or the back end of the halving event. So beginning of April or just after the halving event, I think it's like 14 days into April. That gives you good insight of what to expect. So you're not surprised when it happens. Talking of trading, I do have a Discord. Make sure you join it. The link is in the video description. So click that after this video. Tap in. I do trade Bitcoin and trade all sorts of other things, but currently in a very profitable trade right now. So that is something that you can get involved in. Okay, so while price made a new fresh all-time high today, 70,000, but then did see a sell-off after that, what's happening underneath the surface? Well, the ETFs are continuing to stockpile on Bitcoin. They've now reached 400,000 Bitcoins. They now own 5% of the circulation of Bitcoin. This is big. And they're just getting started. They're going to continue to add. They're going to continue to stockpile Bitcoin. And remember, when we do get that liquidation event, you're going to get big stockpiling of Bitcoin around that time as well, because they know that the double up in price is coming. So that's an ideal time for them to load up, right? By them, I say, look, the institutions are going to be pushing money into the ETFs, and then they're going to go and buy the Bitcoin, right? That's how it works. So they've been continuing to stockpile. They've been continuing to buy Bitcoin, and now they're sitting healthy at 400,000 Bitcoins. That is huge. And remember, this is sticky purchases. They haven't just bought it. They haven't just bought it to sell it tomorrow. They've bought it with a long-term plan. A lot of people who've been buying into the spot ETFs, they've been adding it to their pension strategies. They've been adding it to their long-term investment strategies. They operate different, right? The money flowing into the ETFs is very different to the money flowing into the exchanges. We know that can trade hands very quickly. This is more sticky. So we now have an existence of a whole different type of consumer of Bitcoin in the ecosystem right now. And it is beautiful to see it continue to grow in strength as it has been. And that is what we're going to continue to see moving forward. Bitcoin ETFs, remember, they've only been around for a couple of months. They are just getting started, okay? They're going to continue to stockpile. There's going to be a point in time we're going to come on the live stream and say, hey, these ETFs collectively, they own 800,000 Bitcoins, okay? They've taken 8% of the supply of Bitcoin. That's huge. Not only that, it's not only the fact that institutional money is flowing into these ETFs. You've got the ETF provider themselves that are going to buy their own ETF. So you've got BlackRock. Remember, BlackRock's the biggest asset manager in the world. 1 trillion in assets. Or is it 10 trillion? 10 trillion in assets. Huge. And now they have a couple of different asset management strategies that they offer to their clients. And they're adding Bitcoin to those strategies, to a couple of them. I think there's 2 now. Okay, maybe there's more. But the big thing here is that it sends a strong signal to the market. The signal to the market that it's sending is Bitcoin is serious. The signal that it's sending is Bitcoin has massive potential. The game has changed for Bitcoin now. Now people are now viewing it very differently. We now have different classes of investors, and it's now being added to a more diversified range of portfolios and strategies. Very different time we're operating in right now. BlackRock adding it to their legacy investment vehicles. That is big. That is huge. You're going to start to see Fidelity doing the same thing. You're going to start to see other prominent asset managers doing the same thing. So that's big news. That's big. But arguably, what I'll say is one of the most interesting things I've got for you today is, remember I was saying, yes, we have touched 70,000, and that's amazing. But we've touched 70,000 through predominantly institutional money. Okay? Predominantly through institutional money using the vehicles of these ETFs. That's allowed us to push through, make all-time highs. What is another big component of the market? The retail trader, the retail investor. You know that the retail investor has been silent. They have been silent. The institutions have been flooding cash into the ETFs, and that has caused an increase in the Bitcoin price. So we have this layer going on right now, but we have the non-existence of the retail layer. And to get that real capitulation move, to get that real spike, that real big push in that all bull market see, you want that added component of the retail. Once you get the added component of the retail, you get that compounding effect and you get big moves. We haven't yet seen that. But here's the thing. We have record levels of stable coins sitting on the sidelines. So let's backtrack. Whoa, what's going on? The stable coins, for those who don't know, basically they're just coins that are pegged to well-known fiat currencies like the dollar. So you've got USDT, USDC. If you want to use an exchange to buy cryptocurrency, you'll change your dollars into your stable coins, USDC, USDT, and then you'll use that to buy your cryptocurrency. But check it out. We have record levels of stablecoin sitting in the exchanges ready to buy cryptocurrency. That is crazy. We are at all-time high levels, but we have massive levels. And we're put it into context. The ETFs have bought 10 billion in Bitcoin, but we have 135 billion in stablecoins sitting on the sidelines, ready to be injected into the crypto market to create that cascade effect, that explosion in price. So you see, that's where the big move comes in. That's how you get Bitcoin moving from 70,000 to 80,000 to 90,000 to 100,000. Once you get that release of the stablecoin into crypto, fueled by the retail, and then you got institutions still coming in as well, that's how you get the big numbers. That's how we complete this next cycle. Okay, so, and we're seeing an increase in the amount of stablecoin. Okay, we've seen a jump up in March, and that money is just being ready to go into cryptocurrency. And it's going to do so once we cross through and break into the 70s, and it's going to do so once we get that liquidation event taking place at the back end or the front end of the halving event. So this is big, right? This is big. This is the kind of stuff that's going on underneath the surface. And if you know this, you can position yourself accordingly with your accumulation strategy in place. Okay, or if you want to trade Bitcoin, whatever the case may be, it just allows you to position yourself appropriately, strategically, and where you can take massive advantage of what is going on right now. Okay, all right, guys, enjoy the weekend. I'll probably be popping up on the weekend, but yeah, it's been good as always.